to our panel discussion. Now, the panel discussion will be discussing this topic, the role of crypto exchanges in today's landscape. And I'm sure that's going to be very interesting for all of us to discover the role of crypto exchanges in today's landscape, especially given the economy that we have right now. So coming on stage in just a few short moments, we have the panelists, Andy Lian, the chairman from Big One Exchange, Feroz Medora from Gemini, Travis Teo from Tokenized Exchange, and Louis Mahlanga from Jim Network. And to moderate all of this, we have the Bitcoin man himself, Mr. Herbert Sim. Can we give our panelists and moderator a huge round of applause?
Hi, everyone. For those foreigners, welcome to Singapore. I'm the Bitcoin man, Herbert Sim. For those who don't know me, I guess to kickstart, I will welcome my panelists on stage first. Let's welcome Jerry Ng from CoinHako, Andy Lian from Big One Exchange, Feroz Medora, Travis Teo, and Louis. Yeah, please come on stage. No, I might be here. Yeah. So I guess as we wait for the panelists to come on board, let me do a quick introduction. I'm the moderator for today's panel, the role of crypto exchanges in today's landscape. So a quick introduction about myself, in case you don't know already. I'm known as thebitcoinman.com. You can check me out. It's a UK venture capital with trademark of Bitcoin Man. So I founded CryptoChain University back in 2010, the world's first repository for compiling both crypto and blockchain research papers in 2010. And subsequently, I was Global Operations Director at Huobi, which was the biggest exchange in the world from 2013 to 17. Subsequently, CMO at a Russian crypto exchange. So without further ado, I guess this panel is going to be the most exciting one for the whole day, for the matter, because crypto exchanges, as you know, is the epicenter of crypto industry itself. It's the platform where everybody buy and sell your favorite cryptocurrencies. Yeah. So as we know, crypto exchanges came about in 2010, 11. I would know because in the early days there was no crypto exchanges at all. It started with entrants like Kraken, Coinbase. And then we saw the whole entire industry move towards dominance in Asia itself, right? With the likes of Mt. Gox in Japan, China's Huobi, OKEX, and more. So from December 2017 onwards, we saw the price of Bitcoin jump from 1,000 to 20,000 suddenly. And there came an influx of all the crypto people into the industry. Yeah, and so while I was at Huobi as their global operations director then, there was a study actually conducted to show that there are over 4,000 known exchanges, okay? Bear with me as I give a quick introduction and give you a background of what we're gonna be discussing today, yeah? So in that time, there were 4,000 over exchanges at the point of time, and even today on CoinMarketCap, we see over 500 over exchange being listed there. So now I think it's a super competitive landscape for all our like panelists here today. So today's champion of crypto exchanges, as per on CMC, shows that for spot is Binance, FTX, Coinbase, and derivatives. There's Binance, OKX, Bybit. They're also one of the sponsors here today. Go check out their booth later. And decentralized exchanges, you might heard of Uniswap and PancakeSwap. So I guess without further ado, all our panelists are here already. Let's kickstart. The first question today, okay, it's the explosion of thus many crypto exchanges, okay, is the white labeling phenomena, right? Whereby exchanges, they do not have their own exchange technology. They actually use white label solutions. Okay, which allows for an instantaneous creation of exchanges. That's why I said earlier there's over 4,000 exchanges, right? So with all this proliferation, the nature of the platforms continue to diversify. So the question to the panel here today, what is the current role of exchanges today besides crypto trading? Maybe you want to kickstart? Yeah.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Singapore. Awesome. Basically, if we look at cryptocurrency, the adoption is the main issue currently. Everyone is skeptical and so forth. So exchanges, I believe that they are enabling the industry to be easily accessible. For example, when I got started with cryptocurrency, when everyone was saying Bitcoin is a decentralized currency, I have to give you money and then you send me Bitcoin. So I was skeptical. I don't know about you, but I was skeptical then. Then with exchanges, it made my life much more easier. I had confidence to buy Bitcoin via a centralized exchange, and it was so much more easier because it was more familiar to the bank account that I use. So the point is it enables easy accessibility to the masses. And then secondly, the adoption and the confidence to each and everyone in the world, it becomes much more easier because we are used to our online banking and our online bank apps. And then basically that's it. It enables even to educate the masses about cryptocurrency, not only trading, but we know exchanges are the best vehicles that have been used to reach out to people in educating them about cryptocurrencies.
Yep. So from my point of view, how I see, the rise of white label exchanges and, how exchanges can differentiate themselves today is some exchanges like these white label exchanges, they only accept crypto. And in terms of fiat on-off ramp, it's a whole different ball. Having the right payment partners in order to have this fiat on and off ramp, which all these new white label exchanges, they only accept crypto and they do more crypto to crypto pairings, right? So that is one of the key differences that I kind of see between white label exchanges and other exchanges which are more compliant in the jurisdiction that they operate in. Yeah.
I think going back to Bitcoin Man's question, I do believe that the existence of exchanges is a form of innovation and is a form of how we can transfer money globally, and yet in a more organized and regulated manner, right? So this is what we are all trying to do. But then, alluding to the fact of this pretext of what the whole discussion, talking about white labor, a lot of new exchanges came out. I don't see that as a very big problem, In fact, whether you're using a Shift or you're using ChainUp, for example, it doesn't really make too much of a diff. Because as long as you have the right kind of regulations and the right kind of compliance and governance mindset, whether it is going to be white labor or whether you are going to do it on your own, I don't see that as a big difference. In fact, if you are new, you don't have the tech, using white labor would help you to move to the market faster. Instead of buying something off the, buying something off the shelf and then trying to edit it, there are a lot of security issues, and the risk management portion is also very much being compromised in many ways, right? So whether it's going to be a fiat on-ramp or not, if you are using a good white labor company for exchanges, it will make a big difference. So this is how I look at it from an industry standpoint.
Good afternoon, Herbert. Thank you for having us. Pleasure to be here. I think when it comes to white labeling... Sorry? Okay. Thank you. When it comes to white labeling, that's one major component of how an exchange operates. There are many other areas beyond the technology that powers the exchange. It's your fiat on and off ramps. It's going to be how good is the quality of service that the exchange provides. You could have the best tech, but if you have no customer support, users might struggle to get any help. If you have the best tech, you have the best fiat on-ramps, but you're not well regulated, then it's up to the user to decide what risks they're willing to take in exchange for the functionality that that particular exchange offers. So speaking for Gemini, we are one of the most regulated exchanges. We started off as a custodian first. We're regulated by the New York Department of Financial Services. And we believed that it was better to be safe first, build up a strong custody foundation that is regulated. Then on top of a strong foundation where the assets are safe, you build an exchange. And so you slowly build up a business layer by layer at a time. But ultimately, the foundation, bedrock of any good business is going to be how safe are the assets that you hold on behalf of other users.
Okay, thank you for kicking start this panel. I guess we have a full house here today already. It's a very good turnout. That's good. I guess now the next question is something very exciting. It's been discussed over the past at least 2 years now across this COVID-19, right? This decentralized exchanges, DEX, okay, has been more and more trending over the years. So now there's a question for our panelists here today who are from centralized exchanges called CEX. Okay, so what's the difference between centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges? What are your thoughts, pros and cons? Maybe you want to start off?
This is an interesting topic because cryptocurrency is all about becoming your own bank, right? So with the decentralized exchange, I love it because it enables you as an individual to become your own bank, meaning that you are in charge of your money. You can do whatever you want at any given time without anyone controlling you, without anyone giving you terms and conditions. Then with the centralized exchange, the limitation is that there are terms and conditions, for example, to say you can only transact for $10,000 a day, you can only transact for $1,000 a day, and of which it's one of the major limitations on the centralized exchanges versus the decentralized exchange.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think decentralized exchanges, like you mentioned, you are allowed to be your own bank, but you're definitely subjected to many different types of risks. For example, smart contract risk, and numerous other things which may be cumbersome for new users in the space. So for example, in order to interact with the DEX, you need, if let's say you're on Ethereum or Solana, you'll need like the currency, like Ether or Solana, in order to interact with like DEXs. And as a new user, you might not know how this non-custodial wallet works. And you also might not know where you are able to obtain the Ether or Solana. So that's where, you know, centralized exchanges comes in as the bridge for these new users. Maybe they could have some kind of education system to guide them through how to actually interact with the DEX. And then from there, they can purchase their first Ether, Solana, or whichever layer one that they would like to interact with before, you know, heading to actually explore the decentralized exchanges, knowing how to swap and learning the different gas prices, the mechanics behind it. So I believe like in the future, we're definitely moving towards more of a, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of a CDFI term, whereby, you know, centralized exchanges are there to bring in these mass markets, people who are new users to the cryptocurrency or, you know, in general, broadly termed Web3 space, and let them understand how, you know, decentralized exchanges work, how DeFi work, and then, you know, from there, they can slowly learn the ropes before they enter, like, you know, the decentralized space. Because like with decentralization comes power, and then let's say if you do a transaction wrongly, the tokens, you know, if you confirm a transaction wrongly, the tokens might just disappear. You might not do an action that you want. And unlike on a, you know, centralized exchanges, as much as say, you know, not your if it's on centralized exchanges, not a token. But if you do something wrongly on the centralized exchanges, it might be able to be reversed if you contact like the support team. So definitely there are pros and cons between like decentralized and centralized exchanges. Yeah.
I think, if it's not your key, it's not always not your money, right? So this is actually a very real truth, also a very sad truth, right? Since we are all in the centralized exchange, I must say something, for new users, very new users who do not know about cryptocurrency, perhaps also very forgetful, didn't know what is a seed phrase and things like that, so centralized exchange will act as a bridge or act as a customer service to solve all your problems, So I think this is a very good start for all of you to get familiarized with all the things that we are talking about right now, right? And then the future will be more decentralized based on my own humble opinion. The reason being is whenever we want something good, something useful, something innovative, we need to try something new, right? So decentralization is the way forward, and as we move along, I think decentralization will be a lot more complex, a lot more secure. Right now we have seen projects, we have seen DEXs who claim that they are decentralized, but it's not really very decentralized, right? So as we move along, when the technology and the knowledge combine, I think at that point of time, we can see more decentralized exchanges going into mainstream. Not only people like Uniswap or even PancakeSwap and so forth. You need to have that kind of system, to make sure that things are well protected. So as of now, today, I still think that centralized exchange has a space for us to grow. In time to come, some of my own peers as well, including friends like CZ and so forth, I think they will look at decentralization a lot more than what we are looking at it right now.
Yes, I agree with you there. Right now, I think it's still safe to say that there are probably more people out there in the world who don't have crypto than people who do. It's still a very growing field. And at the moment, the way someone who doesn't have any cryptocurrency can buy some is with a fiat on-ramp to a centralized exchange. So, and same for anyone else who already has crypto who's looking to withdraw cash, you still need that fiat ramp that the centralized exchange offers. And if you need to store cash at a centralized exchange, the regulated exchanges keep your fiat assets in FDIC-insured banks. So that is a very high level of security that perhaps a user might enjoy. Ultimately, in the debate between CeFi and DeFi, I think the real question to ask is, what user problem are we solving? Because honestly, I think a user should be fairly agnostic between one and the other, but who serves their needs best is the ultimate question.
Very good points from,
Just the last thing that is burning in my heart. Decentralized is more like we're looking at identity. Would you like to be known how much money you have? Do you want to be followed by someone saying you've got so much money, but you are not paying tax that is equivalent to what you are holding? So decentralized exchange, I believe it's solving that problem to say, I have my $100 million in my wallet, no one knows it, no one sees it, I'm the one who knows it, and I am safe with that. Thereby, you are able to control on the tax paying and so forth. And number two, with decentralized exchanges, it enables each and everyone to be able to transact without having to verify who you are. If you are from a community or a nation where you don't have ID or a cell phone number, or most of people have cell phones and they've got smartphones. So if they don't have the identity, they are able to utilize the decentralized exchanges in order to make money for themselves.
Okay. Well, in the past, DEX and centralized exchanges, there used to be a massive clash.
Yeah.
So it's very good points that all our panelists brought up today. In fact, Feroz himself actually brought up, did an opening for the next question, which is the on-ramp and off-ramp of exchanges, yeah? So to list out some of the for the roles of a crypto exchanges, what roles can they play exactly? Okay, we're looking at on-ramp, off-ramp, payment services like remittance, escrow services, micropayments, merchant services, and many more, like mobile wallet, ATM. So now, there's a question for all the panelists here. Okay, what are the differentiating factors which sets apart each exchange? Yeah?
The one that comes quickly to my mind is fees. Some exchanges have got lower fees, some exchanges have got high fees. And secondly, it's the price, the buying points and the selling point. Some exchanges have got, at the same exact time, let's say now it's 1520, you will see that they differ when it comes to the prices. Bitcoin can be expensive on another one and cheaper on another one. So that's the other differentiating factor.
Yeah, so for me, I see there's many other roles that exchanges could play, especially in this ever-changing narrative crypto landscape. First, we see many exchanges actually within this 1 year or so entering more kind of a U play. Although in recent weeks you see some kind of contagion issues within all these counterparties, but like mentioned, other than DEXs, which you can do swaps, there's many other things you can do on the blockchain, which includes like providing liquidity or lending out some of your funds. So as mentioned before, all these are rather cumbersome for new users. So what an exchange can do is possibly simplify this process and possibly do some kind of risk pooling for all these users who would like to participate in this kind of liquidity pooling or lending out funds in a decentralized manner without actually needing to go through the hassle of setting up, like you mentioned, the private keys and your seed phrases. That's one of the roles. So simplifying like DeFi, which is moving towards a more CDeFi landscape. Yeah. So another role, which I think Herbert actually mentioned, is more of remittance as well as like merchant services. So when we all kind of like enter the crypto space, we are here to make money, right? So, when your crypto appreciates in prices, definitely you would want some way to cash out or even directly spend this returns that you have made, in this investment that you have made. So exchanges will have this kind of merchant services, especially where I see we are heading towards now. It's more of big ticket items, possibly like cars, even properties. And then we kind of cut out one intermediary transaction, which is off-ramping your crypto to fiat, right? So directly we can, for example, quote like, for example, this car, the down payment for your car, maybe it's like 1 BTC or maybe 2 at these prices, right? And we can directly deal with the merchant and settle directly with the merchant if the merchant is actually on the same network as the exchanges. It's as simple as just crediting and debiting of balances. So these are a few like things that I feel like exchanges can value add for our users. Yeah.
I think what set the exchange apart from security, I think the key thing is about user base, right? So you can be top in terms of a market cap and things like that, but you may not have a big user base. Users are not talking about you. Then I think you become a failure in the exchange business. The other thing that set exchanges apart is not about putting up a lot of services, remittance, all these old traditional style services that deem to be for the convenience sake. I don't see that as a selling point, right? So if you are going for crypto exchange spot, you just do your spot business, do it well. If you are going to be good in derivatives, futures, options, just continue with that route, because along that product line, there's a lot of things that you can do. Why bother to do remittance? why bother to become an exchange? Perhaps become a pawn, like a pawn shop where you can pawn your items. It defeats the purpose of us being an innovator, trying to move multiple steps backwards just to accommodate to some of these possible needs and convenience. And again, if you look at how the whole crypto cycle is like, as long as you stay there long enough, do the right kind of business, you are going to be the next KuCoin maybe, or the next Bybit maybe, or the next Binance, for example. So we just need to stay good at what we are doing, make sure that we have good community to back us up, make sure that we are all well regulated and compliant. Even if you are in a non-compliant space, you also need to have a fair bit of self-governance to keep things going. If not, one day when the regulators come knocking on your door, exchanges like us, we can't do anything. We just need to surrender all the information, fight the case and so forth. I still think, going back to, just to summarize, I think it's more of user, focus, and then last but not least, having a set of good governance or a good set of compliance document on hand.
Yes, so to the point about remittances and payments, I think cryptocurrency does enable that very seamlessly 24/7. I think it's no exaggeration to say if anyone here needed to send, say, $10 million from one company to another, you probably could not do that at home on a Saturday morning by yourself within 10 to 15 minutes, to be generous, and probably pay less than $5 to $10 in fees to do that remittance. Whereas if you needed to send US dollars to the US via fiat rails, that will take at least 2 to 3 days. Even if you have an online platform to do that, the fees are probably going to be more expensive than what you would pay for, say, a stablecoin transfer from wallet to wallet. So on the payment side, I think blockchain enables that very seamlessly and very efficiently. And where exchanges fit in there is to provide the foundation and the tools to users to access all these ancillary services.
Okay, I guess just to add on to the speakers, like what are the differentiating factors, right? I think something that users look towards in the past decade, I would say, is very much the security of the exchange, how credible it is. Because those who have been around since 2014, there was a massive mt-gox hack, right? And it shook the whole industry. And subsequently, 2017, 18, many more massive hacks happened, right? Not just crypto exchanges, but crypto projects themselves. So I guess the main thing that the top exchanges tackle is actually cybersecurity and how safe the funds are. In fact, CZ, Binance, one of his most famous quotes is SAFU, S-A-F-U. It's just a play on your funds are safe. Yeah, so now that brings me on to the next question. Okay, now there are more and more people pouring in. So stay on all the way because it's going to get more controversial as we go along. There's going to be a lot of controversial questions that are going to be asked. The journalists here today with us, the media, will also be very excited. This is newsworthy kind of angles. Yeah. So the next question, a very big challenge for centralized crypto exchanges over the years is actually crypto custody, custodial. So users are required to perform mandatory tasks, okay, to sign up, verify their identity, known as KYC, right? So fees can be expensive because platforms take a percentage of this initial investments, right? When they upload their funds, they get charged, right? Some exchanges. So, and off every single trade, transaction fees. So while there's a high level of trust for centralized exchanges, the thing now is centralized exchanges actually hold your keys. You don't hold, like users think it is your keys, it's not. The centralized exchanges are actually holding on to it and your funds. So which makes it subjected to hacking. Like I mentioned earlier, hacking is it's a massive problem still. And we have all seen the massive multi-million hacks. Okay, even close to $1 billion have already been taken place, even in the present day. So now, question to the panel, right? What are your thoughts about centralized exchanges, this custodial today? So what do you think about centralized exchanges holding the custody of those funds?
What I would say is, with current regulations and insurance services that we have, that can be subscribed into these centralized exchanges, it gives us the confidence that we have the safety and security within some of these centralized exchanges. Yes, we know of circumstances where you hear the exchange was hacked, or the company says it's liquidated with over 800,000 bitcoins of people's money, and then it disappears. But with today's advancement in this innovation, we have insurance that enables us to have that confidence and trust on centralized exchanges.
As for me, I see as nowadays most exchanges actually use custody solutions. So as what you're saying to exchanges holding your keys, it's a little bit different on what goes a bit on the back end. So I would think most exchanges actually use custody solutions. Some of the names you have heard would be like BitGo, Fireblocks, Copper. All these are very institutional grade custody solutions. And the exchange would, different custody solutions, they employ different kind of tech. So some of the custody, they use some sort of MPC keys, and all these keys are actually sharded differently, and each of the party will hold one. So technically, an exchange cannot rug a user, so it has to go multiple layers of approval for withdrawals and so on. Yeah. And as for the part where you said millions of dollars were hacked from centralized exchanges, I think it's a good point to point out that millions of dollars have been hacked in DeFi protocols as well, right? So if you look at, if you put funds in a smart contract liquidity pool, that could be bugs or flaws in the code where people can exploit it. So it's not only funds getting misused or hacked on exchanges. There is this kind of smart contract risk, even if you are dealing with within DeFi itself. And for these exchanges hacks, usually it's more of a key man risk, whereby if let's say the founder of the exchange actually holds his own keys and then he disappears, and there is no controls to it. So if an exchange actually has the right controls, internal controls and everything in place, usually this kind of scenario will not happen. And as he also mentioned about insurance, which nowadays every exchanges will be covered on the user's funds, which is this is actually covered by the custodian services provider.
I think it's this way, right? If we are all centralized, if you want the centralized exchanges to take responsibility, holding on to the user's money it got to be there, right? Because if there's a hacking, like what Travis mentioned, the exchange will be liable, the insurance will kick in, although it will not insure everything, but good exchanges with good compliance policies, they will have different ways to mitigate and reduce the risk. One is putting it with institutions, one is putting on a hard wallet, cold wallet, multi-sig. All these things goes on at the back end. It's not so straightforward, right? But in the case where there's only one founder holding on to the key, the founder died today, then died again next week, died again another week, all the money died, Okay, so that would be a separate issue, right? So that is mainly a fraud, right? But again, we are not really seeing problems in exchanges. Whether it's Gemini top exchanges or it's Binance top exchanges, they have to get a good set of a compliance document. Same for decentralized exchanges. They should have their own set of compliance document. It's just like the question came out to my head is which one is more decentralized? Is it PancakeSwap or is it Uniswap? Who can answer this, for example, right? One is you know the founder, one you don't know the founder, one is everyone can collude, you know. So there's a lot of thoughts in the circle. But the main point is this: if you are going to make a trade, make an investment of sort in this crypto space, just do with the kind of funds that you can really lose. You know, we have friends who are very, very gung-ho, every day put in, you know, 100,000 just to bet, you know, derivatives and so forth. Many times they lost, you know, but they manage the risk on their own. You know, he's an accredited investor. But for the general retail investor, I think we need a certain level of education, need a certain level of awareness on how the funds are going to be used, you know, how your DeFi protocol is going to be used, you know, how the slippages is going to kick in if you are using a DEX. So a lot of things, you know, go into the whole, you know, the whole works that we are talking about. So I still think centralized exchanges has a space and has a role to play right now, and a very strong role.
Yes, I'd agree with the panel here. So at any point in time, given the technology available at that time, there's always a trade-off in terms of convenience, decentralization, and security. If you want something 100% secure and safe and purely at your own responsibility, you could get a hardware wallet, keep your own private keys, and make sure you are never going to forget your password and your keys. And that hardware wallet is kept so safe that it never gets wet, never spoils, never gets struck by lightning. If it's your keys, it's your funds, and it's your responsibility. With exchanges and custodians can come in, and I think we use exchanges and the word custodians almost synonymously now, because the way the industry has evolved, that the industry needs the speed by which your assets in custody, whether hot or cold storage, need to be traded out very quickly. And that's where centralized exchanges make that experience very seamless for users, that you can liquidate your assets before an on-chain transaction, even if your assets are kept in cold storage offline in your own personal wallet. And that wallet, given the technology available with keys, sharding, and user access control, can easily have all the security and permissions that any particular institutional investor is looking for.
So now that we have everyone in the room here, I'm going to ask probably the toughest, most controversial question, okay, for crypto exchanges, okay? What are your thoughts on wash trading, okay? And about the rankings on CMC, right? About the wash trading volumes within CMC, maybe, yeah?
My thoughts on that is, it's actually illegally, it's unethically. That's my thought on wash trading, because you're trying to lure people to use your service based on lies and tricks.
That's very honest there.
So I think to define wash trading is like, for example, on the exchange, trade actually happens. Is, for example, the counterparty is between, let's say it's on Binance, it'll be between Binance and Binance. So let's just define that as wash trading. Do you guys agree? So I think that has been very prevalent since, you know, the start of the crypto space. And it's kind of done, at least just from my own opinion, it's done because exchanges want to show that certain kind of volumes, certain kind of activity, liquidity. And in my opinion as well, I feel that these are quite common threats done by market makers. I mean, in terms of there's many different type of orders, but I would kind of oppose against wash trading, but all these kind of like spoofing orders and orders done by market makers is a very common strategy done, I feel, by market makers to show that they have volume, certain transactions. So I think it's good and bad for the industry, but gradually as the industry matures, you'll see more and more institutions, market makers coming in, and then you'll see more real volume. So I would believe like this wash trading would not be a very significant issue, you know, once the industry matures. Yeah.
I think wash trading is a known secret or a known thing, you know, whether it's going to be done by the market makers or traditionally market makers should also bring in the volume also bring in the deals and so forth. But right now, I think, we don't really see that. So is it okay to have wash trading? I think it really depends on how you look at it. Whether is it from a liquidity standpoint or is it from a pure churning of volume standpoint? Because we have friends who say, oh, if today we are not going to churn the volume, we are not going to see our ranks go up on CMC or on CoinGecko. Is it true? Yeah, it's true. Because they take the metrics from there to derive the rankings. Okay, I mean, if you allow this to happen, then what are the downsides and so forth? There's a lot of controversial behind this. But to be also very honest, not all the market making are initiated by the exchanges. All right, we got to be very mindful about this. The exchanges which are more proper, they will not say, oh, I will do the market making for you. That's not true. But of course, we will look at the project and say, hey, you need to attain a certain volume, on the K line, So that will then drive the project to do market making or wash trading, right? So is it exchanges that did it? I don't know. I dare say it's not us. Same for the rest. So whether or not, they are wash trading or not wash trading, or how the project gets the trading going, it really depends on their marketing. It's really depending on their community. If they dare to push it hard enough, then the wash trading or the market making amount will reduce, right? And then that could then make the whole industry a little bit cleaner, and plus what Travis mentioned, the more institution or maybe the better grade market makers will come in, kick into the exchange and bringing new and real volume. This is something that we really need at this current moment. Yeah.
So even though we're in a very new industry, I like the expression, nothing new under the sun. I'd say wash trading falls under the broader category of market manipulation. And we've all heard the terms of like pump and dump, wash trading, painting the tape, and spoofing, which have been features of regular financial markets for a very long time. And the good thing about that, I would say at Gemini, is traditional financial markets have built surveillance tools and artificial intelligence that can detect these sorts of behaviors. To say that any one person can detect all of them 100% is probably going to be a bold claim. So it's been around for a long time in other markets. Whenever markets evolve, users evolve. Unfortunately, both good and bad actors also evolve with markets. And I would say when it comes to volume rankings of any particular exchange, in terms of how users perceive the exchange, by any metric that the user might like, say, let's just say look at traded volume in a day. I'd say the most important defining question a user can ask is, what does this exchange do for me? Do I care if this token trades 100 million, 200 million, a billion in the last 24 hours? Or can I get my trades done? So what fees do I pay? What service do I enjoy for that fee? Can I get my trades done?
Okay, thank you, because you just lead into the next question, which is probably the biggest challenge for any crypto exchanges today, is actually, what are your thoughts for the panelists, okay, on regulations by regulators, like regulators across the world? We're looking at the likes of US SEC, Gemini, right, to China PBOC, right, and even here, in Singapore, Monetary Authority of Singapore. So like, what are your thoughts on this regulations by regulators on the crypto exchanges?
In the early adoption, I think based on the past challenges that we faced on centralized exchanges, it's a brilliant idea because it builds that confidence to the masses. The idea is to get as many people as we can into crypto space, blockchain technology. So if we can have an open mind and they and they enable us to have more centralized exchanges regulated. It's a positive move for us because the idea is to have as many people as we can adopting the blockchain technology. Then the decentralized space, I don't know, we'll see.
In terms of regulation, I think it's definitely a huge step forward and a necessary evil, I would say. But if you look at some of the regulations that is put out for crypto exchanges, especially around the world, one of them which is travel rule. All these are regulations I feel are drafted in the sense that they are trying to fit like TradFi or traditional finance, how they actually run previously. Because travel rule is something like a Swift network whereby you know who's your beneficiary, you know who's the sender, and it cannot really be applied when you're looking at like a blockchain technology, because all of it is actually this information is actually available on the blockchain, you know, but because you know, when regulators come in, they try to apply certain type of frameworks that's brought from the TradFi world into, you know, the Web3 world. So some of it, I think, you know, there still needs to be some kind of communication between all these exchanges and the regulators to see if there can be some kind of common ground for them to actually work on, so that it can kind of be more fitted towards the blockchain space and be more accommodating.
I have always been very proactive and you know, support crypto to be regulated. You know, as early as 2018, you know, I was a blockchain advisor to an intergovernmental organization. If you read my profile, you know, I give advice to Korea right now, Mongolia, and a few others. I think the key about regulation is to what extent are you going to regulate, right? Travel rule, for example, might not work very well, right? How are you going to track? Everybody is not talking to everybody. Banks are not talking to each other. You expect exchange to talk to exchange and then give you, hey, this is my client's information, man, dude, you want it? It doesn't work, you know? So we just got to be very mindful on how we're going to form the jurisdiction at where you are, you know, how we're going to monitor the money flow or the crypto flow at where you are and where you are being regulated. Outside of that, well, that is for the different government to really look at how all these rules can be structured, right? You know, so if the rules are so easy, then a lot of these crypto scammers who are, you know, on the newspaper, for example, they would have been caught, right? They would have gotten very good amount of proof where they move X amount of money into Singapore, for example, you know, and it's still here, it's still there, you know, if you walk around the space long enough, you know. So I still think that this crypto regulations got to be there, but we have to take care of what we have in the local market first, before you look at a bit too far, right? This is the point number one. Point number two is if you again look at how the different traditional finance or the traditional licenses kick into the picture, you know, and to work very closely with exchanges, centralized exchanges, I think that is also a very good move to facilitate and track some of this money flow, right? These are all reasonable, but I think recently I got a request from one government asking to regulate DeFi or to regulate DEXs. You know, I think that is really too future, right? The only thing that I can let them know is that those decentralized exchanges, for example, who use on-ramp fiat service, for example, or maybe those you can really track, yeah? Because at the end you need to put your real money. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that crypto is not real, but you know, your real fiat money somewhere, right? So that you may be able to track. But apart from that, you know, the regulations kicking in will be really very tough. More from a more realistic standpoint, yeah? Yeah, thanks.
So when it comes to regulation, Gemini likes to work with all the regulators, and we seek to be regulated in all the markets that we operate in. And I think all the regulators always act in the best interest of their client. And I would say a regulator's number one client is the people in the country that they regulate. They care about creating a free and fair market that's clear, fair, not misleading, transparent, and investor protection. And I would struggle to disagree with any of those objectives personally. And as at Gemini, I think regulation has a great opportunity to enhance the cryptocurrency space. Exactly to the point of, we would love to have a cryptocurrency industry without any scams. We would love to see all the scammers get caught. And for people who unfortunately have been scammed to get their funds back. We've gone through COVID here in Singapore, where we've seen a rise in a lot of financial scams, unfortunately, as both good and bad actors evolve. And I think this is a space where the industry is always playing a race. And it's not just the cryptocurrency industry, but any industry in general is always playing a race against those who seek to be regulated and those who do not.
So being in the crypto industry now for close to a decade, the industry is moving and developing really rapidly. The likes of regulators across the world are actually struggling, even just to regulate and understand what is going on in this space. Yeah, so we see governments across the world, rushing in like, hey, what's happening? Okay, and there are some countries that just, blanket ban crypto. And they are in some of the world biggest economies that just do a blanket ban. And the thing is, I got to comment that Singapore MAS is doing a very good job thus far, right? They set up, like in the early days, they did Sandbox, whereby they started to understand what it is without, over-regulating or just, blanket ban it. So I think this is one of the good points where we are. The very fact that we are able to hold a crypto conference in Singapore is a living testament of that. Because there are countries across the world whereby even a crypto conference is not allowed, right? So kudos to Singapore. So now that brings us to the very last question. Okay, more free and easy here. Okay, let's talk about crypto trading specifically. Okay, we are looking at mobile financial trading, derivatives, trading, future trading, financial trading. What's next? What is the future of trading?
Do you mind taking it while I'm thinking about that?
Sure. So, with the evolution of blockchain technology and, exchanges would need to adapt with narrative. I think there's a few things I want to bring up. I think in terms of the narrative, where we're going as institutions come in, would definitely be more of the derivatives part, because many institutions, funds, even banks, they might not want to deal with like the hassle of handling spot, right? So they definitely look into derivatives such as NDFs, options, futures to hedge certain positions, or to do certain strategies. So I think derivatives, the market is already growing, and especially I think options will kind of be like the next big thing that is coming. So in terms of trading, I think there will definitely be a few more options, centralized options trading platform. The main platform now, which I think a lot of counterparties or most people use, is Deribit. But there are upcoming ones like Bit.com and a few other exchanges which does kind of options. So I think options is gonna be like the kind of like the next upcoming thing. And in terms of, I think, trading, then I think from a centralized exchanges point, definitely is to develop some kind of feature, which I think there is something already in place. So something like you can actually interact with a decentralized exchange through your platform itself, or you can access certain DeFi products through the, or other kind of more innovative products through the exchange itself.
I think I got to echo this as well. Derivatives will be the way forward. I think that is also the way real money is. Spot is really talking about small, tiny bit of transactional fee that is driven by volume and some wash trading. So I think derivatives will be the way to go. For exchanges. Regulated ones is a lot easier. And then the other things that I think, we should really look at is maybe even an NFT exchange, right? There are a few out there, marketplaces and so forth, but there's a lot more you can do on NFTs, right? There's a lot more you can, work on top of the NFTs. Of course, not adding securities to NFTs, right? But adding, functions to NFTs that can also bring in new users who are not so much, maybe not so much price token driven, they are looking at good things that they trade, benefits that they can get from the NFT, so I think that should be the case. And also because I'm writing a book on NFTs, so just do a small advertisement here.
Yes, I agree with you there. I mean, Jim and I acquired Nifty Gateway back in 2019 and I don't think anyone could have expected NFTs to take off like they've had in the last 2 years. That really answers the question of what benefit does the investor or user derive from owning cryptocurrency? And I think thus far, a lot of us have been guilty of looking at it through the lens of financial investment. To look at, say, perhaps owning a Monet purely through the lens of a financial investment would probably detract from a large part of the enjoyment that the owner and the gallery gets from allowing people to view it and enjoy the art. And there's more than just finance and making money. There's the ephemeral joy that people get from art, whether it's conventional physical art or digital art, which is why I think NFTs have taken off so successfully. And to the point about derivatives, I think a lot of financial markets evolve along similar lines. First we get spot markets, then we get borrowing and lending markets, and then we get forward markets, typically futures, and then insurance, which is options. I think crypto has echoed a lot of that development path as user needs change, because investing in purely the spot market just gives you a delta one linear exposure to the underlying. But people need some hedging risk controls, insurance, or they want to express more nuanced views beyond just directional price action.
Thank you, Andy and Feroz, for bringing up NFTs. I think NFTs is a super exciting topic today. And I think a whole bunch here today, if I do a poll, it'll probably be like 80% people here who are all excited about this NFT, right? So the session can actually go on and on for another hour. Unfortunately, we come to a close for this panel. But before we close, we'd like to take a couple questions from the ground today for our panelists here about the role of crypto exchanges. Anybody, any questions from the ground? Okay, we got a question there. The gentleman.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Andy for listing Everrise on his exchange. So one question would be to the other panelists, what do you look for in tokens when you're going to list on a new exchange? So kind of what qualities, is it community? Is it purely a fee to list? That's kind of the question.
Hey, hi, Everrise. So he's a friend as well. So I think for different exchanges, they have different kind of criteria. But bear in mind, right now is the bear market. If you have a good community, if you have good product, and you have not been listed anywhere, I think right now it's easier for you to get onto the bigger exchanges. Top 10, top 15. I think now is a good chance, right? So do not be afraid, to reach out to the exchanges and say, hey, I want to list on you, because right now it's bear market. What the exchanges really want are new users. If you are a new user, you can bring in $50 each. Everrise has about 94,000 followers maybe, or 100,000 followers on Twitter, for example, and they can convert everything. Then you are an ace top brand, top project on XYZ exchange. So I think, right now is a very good time for people to really step up and introduce your project promptly, openly, and do massive enough marketing just to get yourself known. I hope that answers, man.
Okay, do we have any other questions from the ground? Feel free to ask even the controversial questions, okay? I'm sure the panelists here can handle it. Yeah. And there's one more at the back later, yeah? The lady behind.
Thanks. So the question is a little bit following what you were asking in terms of what's the future of crypto, and obviously when we talk about NFT and metaverse. So the question goes to, is the world/community ready for cryptocurrency and of course NFT? And I'm asking that because yes, it's a hype, the whole topic. And one thing is listening to the topic on a daily basis in the news or, social media and jump on the interest to learn more about it. But actually the difference between actively taking part of either trading or, copy trading, staking, whatever you name it, or, jumping into NFT, so the business itself. So the question is how the community and the world is actually ready to be more involved in the crypto and soon in NFT and metaverse.
What's the crux of the question?
Do you think the community right now it's ready? It's knowledgeable enough to invest in crypto like actively and very soon in NFT in the metaverse or be involved? Is it ready?
I think the community is medium ready, because we have to take the responsibility to educate the masses to adopt this new technology. I think it's our mandate right now to educate as many people as we can, not theoretically, but practically, taking them through step by step into the system of blockchain technology. I think it's our responsibility right now to educate as many people as we can.
Yeah, I definitely echo the point on education. But if you look at the community, there are definitely early adopters, and then the later people who are coming in now are, maybe just drawn in by NFTs, metaverse. So, as the role of an exchange, I believe, like as you mentioned. Definitely education is the way forward. So I think every exchange should have some kind of FAQ, whether or not it's for, in terms of the fees, transparency, but also, education on how you can interact with the blockchain as well. Yeah.
Just a very quick one, it's definitely not ready. So when the price dropped from $1 to 90 cents, everyone is crying, right? Everyone is farting, right? So it's not really. So whether it's going to be NFT or not, it's the same problem. You bought the NFT at $10. Now you're trying to sell at $1.20, and there's nobody buying it. There's the base price is also not met. So there's a lot of there's a lot of grievances in the space. So I think the very short answer is we are not ready. So that's why you should encourage your friend to watch our panel. Yeah.
Okay, do we have any other, we have one lady, the question back. Speedy Gonzalez, huh? Our guy is running around. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Very thank you. Since you mentioned that just now we have a very good discussion on the user base, it's actually very crucial for most of the exchange. So while exchange are also facing the regulations from local market, especially the government. So where do you see the balance of gaining the presence in new markets versus the overall return as a company or as an exchange?
That's a good question. Oh, I will answer that, if you don't mind. I think the fine balance is to keep yourself as regulated as possible in the new markets. Because when you enter the new market, you will not have a piece of license already. And to be very frank, as a CX operator, it is the best time to get the most money before the regulator come after you, right? Sorry, in a very compliant, gentlemanly manner, right? We're not going to bring a gun over and then we're going to rob them, right? We are not. As long as we are compliant, stepping into a new ground, it means you're doing more. You're gaining a lot more at the tiniest time frame, before I get regulated,
Okay, we have time for one last question, okay, before we close really. The gentleman in the front here.
Thanks, Herbert. My question is to centralized exchanges. You guys have been riding the wave all along, but a lot of competitions come in, especially decentralized exchanges. Projects are going there. A lot of business is going to OTC, and of course, people are now also doing P2P. So, what's the strategy that centralized exchanges are now new strategy that you guys are doing to get more users and traders to come and trade?
I can take that one, please. So with respect to centralized exchanges, I mean, ultimately, what is the user doing here and the activities you've described? Let's assume the end user here is trying to trade the spot, trying to execute a spot transaction, either crypto versus crypto or spot versus crypto. And that is a functionality that the centralized exchanges offer very seamlessly. And the centralized exchanges, like Gemini, for example, we also offer services that allow OTC traders to trade with their clients directly on the exchange in a clearing service. So we don't see that as any competition. It's net additive to the entire industry. It's essentially I think the industry is at a stage where there's so much growth potential for everyone that there's no winner-loser competitiveness. One person's victory is the next person's enhancement.
Okay, I guess we've come to the end of our panel. Yeah. So thank you very much for being an amazing audience today. Yeah. Please feel free, to reach out to any one of us as you meet us in the conference later. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's have it one more time for our moderator, Herbert Sim, our panelists, Andy Lian, Feroz Medora, Travis Teo, and Louis Malanga. One more time for all of them. We can clear the stage. Thank you.